Welcome to Something to Wrestle With.
Something to wrestle with.
Bruce Prichard. Well, you know.
That's not a rib.
She pooed it.
She says after she found the letter, she contacted Vince and was soon fired. And because she was,
just for the record, Chyna was never fired.
Because she was fired, this is her words. Chyna said she showed up at Raw one day and she said it was like a parting of the Red Sea. She said she was walking down the hall and guys were just separating and ignoring her and looking away, and nobody's really wanting to make eye contact. Here, she would talk to Stephanie for about 2 minutes. And she says that Stephanie was being belligerent and attacking Chyna. And Chyna told her that if she can't talk to her, she'll go get her dad. And Stephanie said she had nothing to say to her. So Vince ends up coming in, and Chyna tells him how disappointed she was and how she didn't want to lose her job. And she said that after meeting with Vince, she was sent home and then was later sent a fax saying that she was no longer needed. And she said Triple H never spoke another word to her. And the next time she saw him was when he came to pick up Sean Waltman to take him to rehab many years later. I'm sure we'll do a full Chyna episode at some point and to give the full scoop on all this, but I do want to mention that the then head of talent relations, Jim Ross, said that it was mutually agreed upon to just let her contract expire in order for her to explore other options. Chat me up.
Well, I hate to speak ill of the dead. I won't speak ill of Joni. I love Joni, and I thought she was a wonderful, wonderful person, as sweet as the day is long. However, unfortunately, the story you just told, none of it's true. She did call Vince. She did have a conversation with Vince, and this was in April or May of 2001. She said that they had been seeing each other, and Vince said he knew and that he had told her to stop seeing him. And then he said, he goes, Joni, what can I do? If they love each other, they love each other. And what do you want me to do? I don't want to get involved in your love life. I don't want to get involved in Hunter's love life. I don't want to get involved in Stephanie's love life. And she was upset. She wanted to have a meeting with Vince and so on and so forth. I got a call the night before the meeting from Jim Ross asking me to be at the building early to be a witness for Vince because JR wouldn't be there. And I got to the building and Vince said, we'll do it whenever Joni gets here. Let me know when she gets here and we'll have the meeting. I said, do I need to know anything? He says, no, let's hear what she's got to say. And, we'll take it from there. So Joni came in, to the contrary. I don't remember anybody splitting of the Red Seas. I think kind of to the contrary, there were people that were, hey, Joni. And by this time people knew there was something going on, and she came in and she was obviously upset, but she was also just pretty much steadfast too. And I went and grabbed her. I said, hey, want to get you together with Vince. And she said, okay, let's go do it. And Vince had two offices. He had his big office and then he had a room off to the side. And we went in the room off to the side and she told him what she wanted. And she asked for, almost 4 times what she was making.
$1 million
at the time,
allegedly.
More than that.
Okay.
Double that, as a matter of fact.
She wanted $2 million.
Overall, yes.
Okay.
She wanted that guaranteed in a contract and then another deal with Playboy and some other things. But she talked about it, and Vince said, look, I'm not going to get into the personal stuff. This stuff happens. Okay. And we're adults. But the Stephanie stuff, the Stephanie altercation, I know for a fact that didn't happen that day. That for sure as hell didn't happen because Vince had made sure that Stephanie go out and stay in the arena. I don't want you anywhere near here. we come up with a deal. I want to get you guys together and everybody work it out basically and say, agree, we're all going to be adults here. But I know it didn't happen that day that we had the meeting. That's for sure. That did not happen. Vince told her he couldn't do what she was asking. He made a very fair offer to her, and he offered her a deal, more money than she was making, a downside guarantee that was more money than she had made the year before. It was a great deal. I mean, it was above and beyond what, had the situation been different, that he would have offered. She told him what she wanted. And she said, I don't think I can work here under those conditions. He says, that is your choice. And he says, but at the same time, you're under contract and I will pay you all the way through that. But you also have this offer on the table. Now, if you're not willing to take that, I understand that too. That's not going to be an open offer. So think about it. Decide, I don't want your decision right now. Think about it, go home, talk to your agent, your lawyer, whoever it is you need to talk to. But I'm not going to let personal feelings and all this other crap enter in to business. Things happen. It's life. So we want to do business with you. And, we're showing that we want to do business with you by making you this offer. And she said she didn't know if she could work here under these conditions, knowing that the man she loved was there and blah, 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 and having to work with Stephanie. And she said she didn't know if she could do it. And he told her that was her decision, but that she was welcome and that we wanted her here and that we could work through this. And she left, and she didn't want to perform that night, and she left. She was not fired. She wasn't asked to leave. She asked to leave. And Vince said, sure, take your time and JR will be in touch. And then they decided, okay, you know what? Not going to come back. We'll just let her contract run out and move forward. That's the truth. That's exactly what happened. So anything else, it just didn't happen. You talk about hating to be somewhere. That was, and Joni and I talked about it years later when she came into TNA about, she walked in, she goes, I'll never forget that night. She says, you were in the worst position. She told me that night too, before we went in to meet with Vince. She goes, oh, you're the one that has to be in there with me. I said, yes. And she said, she goes, I really hated that you had to go through that. It sucked. It was an uncomfortable position to be in, but that's what took place.
You sort of said, hey, I know that didn't happen then, which left it open-ended for, did something happen another time where there was a Stephanie,
not that I know of,
a confrontation?
No, not that I know of. I never heard of one. Not at an event. I heard later on through the grapevine that she had either called Stephanie or had some kind of altercation with her on the phone at some point, but I never heard of anything in any arena or anything at the workplace ever. Nothing I ever heard of.
Did you ever have a conversation with Triple H about all this?
No. Again, it is what it is. It's two people, they are working together, they start dating, they fall in love. It's not uncommon, and especially not uncommon in a place where you're traveling together and working together, and that's your only socialization. So, it's, believe it or not, it's more natural, more normal than you'd think. The business isn't normal. So you deal within the constrictions that you have in the business. You don't have family. You don't have interaction with other people.
Why do you think Triple H and Stephanie are looked at as like the heels in this situation because of the way this happened, when it's happened in countless other wrestling relationships and people don't really talk about them in the same regard?
Because Stephanie, because of her last name. And because she was the boss's daughter, and because Triple H was the top guy, he was in there pitching ideas and pitching Vince long before anything, years before anything ever transpired with Stephanie. The only, to me, the only reason is out of jealousy and lack of understanding. It's two people that fell in love, man. So they fell in love, they got married, they live happily ever after. They've got a happy family and all that shit. I think people look at it and they don't understand it out of jealousy, and they feel that there's only one ulterior motive. Why can't people just be happy? Why can't they just accept that they love each other and move on? It happens.
It's just interesting that people look at Chyna as a very sympathetic character here, but nobody really talks about Mark Mero that way. I mean, there's dozens of other instances in wrestling, but it's just weird that that's certainly the perception. But you do have to feel, sorry for Chyna, because not only does she lose her romantic interest, but she also loses her job.
But she left her job.
I understand.
She didn't lose it. She left it. That was a conscious effort on her part.
But at the same time, though, you have to see her position of it being fairly complicated, that the person you were with is now dating technically your boss. I mean, that's a challenge. Can we agree on that?
I don't disagree that it's a challenge, and not at all. So
you lose your love life and your job and basically all your friends, because when you're on the road, those are your friends, right?
That's your whole life.
You ever hear where Linda was on any of this? We've talked a lot about what Stephanie thought and what Triple H thought, what Chyna thought, what Vince thought about Linda.
I have less than I couldn't even guess.
What about Shane? He says one of the boys now dating his sister.
I don't think Shane was happy, and that's me putting words in Shane's mouth, but I don't think Shane was happy at all. I think that Shane's very protective of Stephanie, very protective of his mother. And if I were a betting man back then, that Shane wouldn't have been in favor of it.
Yeah.
But he also isn't one of those guys that's going to go talk about it either.
Well, Stephanie did talk about it. She was on Howard Stern in 2002. She said that she's sure in Chyna's eyes that Stephanie is the bitch in that scenario, and that Chyna feels that, she stole Triple H from her. And she says that when the storyline with her and Triple H started, she was actually dating someone else. But then she said her boyfriend would tell her that she had the hots for Triple H, and she didn't even realize it herself. So to use a Vince McMahon phrase, she worked herself into a shoot. Howard wanted to know if Steph had ever wondered why he was with her, and she said no. And Robin wanted to know, does it ever occur to you that he wants to run things? And Steph said that would be a great ultimate plan, but if he screws it up, then he's screwed. And that is something that I don't think a lot of people really think about. Like, you sort of insinuated a minute ago that a lot of people are saying, oh, it's because of, who her dad is. And there's this ulterior motive. But at the same time, had he got in there and really fucked this up royally, not a lot of options at that point, right?
Yeah, that's the reality of it. You screw that one up and you're really screwed up if that's your motive. And
right.
Also at the same time, here's the other, like, what? I truly believe that even if he did fuck it up and they broke up, that Vince would have continued on. I firmly believe that.
Steph says in this interview with Howard that Triple H was very flirtatious and was dropping hints. And she was wondering to herself, is he hitting on me? But didn't think that could be true. But she said once during a match, when Steph was outside the ring, Triple H is crawling around on the floor and he reaches over and feels her leg. And that's what she knew. Okay, he likes me. And of course she knows she's been forbidden from dating or seeing any of the wrestlers. But she also said in this interview with Howard that when the storyline started, Triple H and Chyna weren't even dating. She said they had a house together, but they were trying to get rid of it. And after a while, she didn't believe Triple H and Chyna were split because they were still living together. And that eventually caused Stephanie and Triple H to stop talking for a long time. So maybe there was a little bit of flirtation and budding romance in 99, but then it doesn't really get going until 2000. Stephanie says when they get back together, Vince gives them the okay, and then he takes it away. So they split up and then get back together a third time. Just as a heads up, this is all from that Howard Stern interview with Stephanie McMahon. Triple H was on that same show in January of 2002. And this is a year after you knew at the XFL that, this was the situation. He says that Chyna was a very good person. He had nothing bad to say about her at all, and that they were together for 4 years. But he said there was a misconception about how things ended with himself and Chyna. He said that things had gone downhill and there was a period of time where they were separated, but it wasn't a full blown relationship at the time when he started to see Stephanie, and he sees things differently. And of course, Howard can't help himself and jokes, well, if you screw this up, you're out of wrestling. And Triple H says, well, I hope not. That would suck. Did you have conversations with Vince? I know you said you didn't really talk about this with Stephanie. You didn't really talk about this with Hunter, but you're going up and down the roads with Vince. I mean, you guys are traveling companions and around each other in booking meetings. I mean, you're with each other all the time. What sort of comments, one way or another, were you hearing from Vince about this relationship?
Zilch. Didn't discuss it. It was private. It was personal. And there were some things just didn't touch. And that was one of them. None of my business. So I wasn't going to ask him anything about it. And frankly, didn't want to know.